Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the fascinating world of enterprise MLOps. We're going to look at exactly how organizations take these chaotic ad hoc machine learning projects and transform them into a highly organized, secure, and scalable enterprise software factory. If you've ever wondered how the big tech giants manage to scale their machine learning without completely compromising their security, well, you are definitely in the right place.
Let me ask you something. Is your ML environment kind of like a messy sandbox right now, or is it a fully functioning, well-oiled factory? I mean, we've all probably felt that low-level dread of accidentally breaking production, right? In so many organizations, data scientists do really brilliant work in these isolated notebooks, but then they face this immense pressure to push those promising experiments straight into live services. And those dangerous notebook-to-production shortcuts, they create massive risks of uncontrolled data exposure, not to mention untested models hitting your actual end users. We absolutely need a better way.
So here is our factory floor map for today's Explainer. We're going to cover the machine learning factory blueprint, check out the raw materials and R&D wings, walk down the automated assembly line, and then explore those critical mission control gates. Finally, we'll visit the crash testing facility before ending up in the central command center. Let's get moving.
Part 1. The Machine Learning Factory. Okay, let's dive into this. A proper enterprise MLOps foundation definitely doesn't just happen overnight. It actually matures through 4 distinct phases. It kicks off with the initial phase, basically a secure sandbox just to prove that the ML actually adds value. Then we move into a repeatable phase where we start automating the build and train pipelines. As things get more serious and we add much tighter controls, we hit the reliable phase, which brings in strict pre-production testing and approvals. And finally, the holy grail, the scalable phase. This is where we use reusable templates to spin up perfectly consistent environments for dozens of different teams.
Now, to actually build this factory, we absolutely have to talk about a critical security concept, and that is blast radius. Put simply, this is the potential damage a failure or a breach could cause to everything else. So to keep that blast radius as small as possible, our factory doesn't just shove everything into one giant warehouse. Nope. Instead, it breaks functions down into completely isolated rooms, which, if we're talking AWS, means entirely separate AWS accounts. Think of it like making sure the explosives are stored in a completely different building from the matchsticks. This physical separation is a total game changer. It contains potential disasters, guaranteeing that some rogue experiment isn't going to accidentally overwrite your live production database.
Part 2. Raw Materials and R&D.
All right, let's step into the first 2 physical rooms of our factory. Look at the massive difference in trust levels here. The data lake, that is your absolute vault. It is highly governed, completely authoritative, and any downstream ML environments, they only ever get read-only or masked access, no exceptions. But right next door, we have the experimentation account. This is your R&D sandbox. It's designed to be super flexible so data scientists can get creative and explore features. But, and this is a huge but, it has absolutely zero direct access to the actual production environment.
Part 3. The automated assembly line.
So once an experiment actually proves its business value, it's got to leave that sandbox. It enters the dev/build account. This is where that wild, free-form notebook logic gets totally industrialized. We're talking about converting research into strict, version-controlled pipeline code. The goal here is to literally design human error right out of the system. Seriously, interactive, console-based changes are entirely locked down here. Everything is driven by automated CI/CD pipelines to generate rock-solid, auditable evidence. This right here is the true manufacturing floor of our ML factory.
Part 4. Mission control and gates.
Okay, but how do we actually control the flow of this assembly line? We need a central nervous system, right? Enter the tooling account. This is the central hub, the absolute core of our entire operation. It handles Git and source control, CI/CD pipeline orchestration, the shared Sagemaker model registry, centralized audit logs, and all the shared policy guardrails. This account is the boss. It sits above all the other stage accounts because it is literally the only entity that has the power to orchestrate movement. A developer doesn't just push a model to production anymore. The tooling account does the promoting, and only when every single condition is perfectly met.
And that brings us to the absolute critical focus of this whole explainer. Check out these explicit security boundaries, labeled SG1 all the way through SG4. Our model's journey isn't just a casual handoff from a notebook to an endpoint. It is a highly controlled promotion from a low-trust zone into a higher trust zone. The tooling account strictly enforces these security gates. So SG1, that blocks the move from experimentation into build.
SG2 blocks builds to pre-prod, and so on. No model moves forward without passing.
So what does it actually take for a model to survive one of these gates? Well, it's a super strict three-step process. First up, mandatory security checks, like secret scans and software supply chain checks, they have to pass automatically. Second, the system must produce verifiable evidence. We're talking test results and lineage metadata that gets permanently locked into the release record. And third, it requires secure human approval, period. There are absolutely zero silent bypasses allowed between these factory rooms. No cutting corners for sure.
Part 5. Crash Testing and Live.
All right, our model has survived the initial gates and is almost ready for the real world. But before it hits the live showroom, it gets sent to pre-production. You can think of this as our crash test facility. It perfectly mirrors the live production controls, but it's specifically designed so that if a model is going to crash and burn, it does it here, where it's safe. We run intense integration tests, stress tests, the whole shebang. Only when a model proves its absolute, undeniable reliability does it pass that final gate into production. And that's where it handles live business, serving under the absolute tightest controls possible.
But even in production, we don't just, flip a switch and cross our fingers. We use major safety nets, like blue/green deployments. What this means is we stand up the brand new model version right alongside the old, reliable one. Then, we slowly, carefully shift just a tiny fraction of the live traffic to the new model, and we watch it like a hawk. If it starts acting up, boom, we instantly shift the traffic right back. It's basically the ultimate safety mechanism for our end users on the live factory floor.
Part 6. The Central Command Center. For our final stop, let's zoom out a bit. With all these multiple, isolated accounts, data lakes, and production endpoints running all at once, how on earth do we keep track of the whole distributed factory? Well, our Central Command Center relies on a single pane of glass Sagemaker monitoring dashboard. Because our factory is spread out across all those different AWS accounts to limit the blast radius, we use an overarching monitoring account. It pulls in metrics across all those isolated rooms. So operations teams get this brilliant, unified view to track job statuses, find bottlenecks, and instantly catch if a model's accuracy starts drifting.
I really want to highlight this incredibly powerful quote from the architecture's security breakdown. It says, "Treat model monitoring and data drift alerting as operational security telemetry, not just data science telemetry." That's huge. Hitting production is definitely not the end of the line. Continuous post-deployment monitoring is a massive, ongoing security imperative. It's the only way we know our factory isn't just churning out models, but producing safe, high-performing ones. We've toured the whole facility now, from the totally locked-down data lake through the automated assembly line, past those strict security gates of mission control, and finally to the live production floor and command center. You literally have the blueprints now for a secure, multi-account enterprise MLOps architecture. So, here's the real question. Are you ready to stop playing around in the messy sandbox and actually build your factory? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.